Hello everyone, this is Remlays from 40k Theories, and welcome to this new episode of 40k Lore for Newcomers. For this episode, nominated on Patreon by Brother Salamander, we will be taking a brief look at the Salamanders Space Marine chapter. This video will be a brief overview for certain events that may be explored in greater depth within additional videos in the future. So without further ado, let's begin.
On the anvil of war the strong-tempered and the weak made to perish. Thus are men's souls tested as metal in the forge's fire.
The Salamanders are a loyalist Space Marine chapter, which was originally founded as the 18th Legion of the Legione Astartes during the time of the Great Crusade. Like all Space Marines, each battle brother of the Salamanders is a genetically enhanced transhuman super soldier that boasts a size, strength, and resilience superior to that of a baseline human. The warriors of the chapter are noted for their loyalty, patience, self-reliance, and sheer unshakable determination, as well as displaying a burning ferocity in combat that is evocative of the mighty reptilian beasts of their homeworld, which serve as the chapter's namesake. The Salamanders are a chapter that is not only highly respected by its peers, but one that is admired and even revered by the common citizenry of the Imperium. This is due to the fact that the Salamanders are one of the few Space Marine chapters to show a genuine concern for humanity, and the warriors of the chapter will go to any lengths to ensure the preservation of innocent lives. While other chapters may become famed as stalwart defenders of the Imperium, few are held with the same degree of admiration and esteem that the Salamanders have earned in the eyes of the Emperor's subjects.
Into the fires of battle, on to the anvil of war!
Formerly known as the Dragon Warriors, the Salamanders were created by the Emperor with the intention of being the 18th Space Marine Legion, although they, alongside the 6th and 20th Legions, would initially be founded in secret. While the reason behind this secrecy is unclear, it is speculated that such a policy was implemented in order to protect a number of legions from potential sabotage or espionage. The Legion would earn many accolades and honours during the course of the Terran Unification Wars, often achieving victory against overwhelming odds. The most prominent example of which was shown with the assault on the Tempest Galleries, which in itself was one of the earliest documented battles undertaken by the Legion. During the Emperor's ongoing conflict with a stubborn yet powerful force known as the Ethnarchy, all 20,000 battle brothers of the 18th Legion were tasked by the Emperor with destroying the Ethnarch's primary power generators. These generators provided power to a vast force field network that shielded the Ethnarch Empire against any direct assault. While such a mission was seen as being tantamount to suicide, the Legion gladly accepted their task and would battle against the Ethnarchy with both stoicism and a near-suicidal ferocity. Despite the fact that over 19,000 warriors of the Legion would be slain during this battle, they would successfully destroy the generators, disabling the Ethnarch's force fields. This then allowed the Emperor to lead a massive force comprising of 6 other legions, as well as the warriors of the Legio Custodes, that would finally overwhelm and crush the Ethnarch Empire. While the Dragon Warriors would slowly start to replenish their losses thanks to fresh influxes of recruits, it would take the Legion an extremely long period of time to truly recover, resulting in the Dragon Warriors not only being one of the smallest legions, but also rarely being deployed in their entirety for many years to come. During the course of the Great Crusade, the Dragon Warriors would be used primarily to counteract sudden or unexpected threats, such as pirates harassing the flanks and rear of Imperial fleets, or dealing with space hulks that would abruptly emerge from the bowels of the warp. Eventually, the Legion's Primarch, Vulkan, would be discovered upon the world of Nocturne. However, unlike the majority of Primarchs, Vulkan would not assume immediate command of his legion, and would instead accompany the Emperor and Ferrus Manus, the Primarch of the Iron Hands Legion, on a number of campaigns for several years before he would finally return to Nocturne. Vulkan would finally take command of the Legion after learning that the bulk of his Gene Sons, led by Lord Commander Cassian Vaughn, were slowly being overrun by a massive Orc horde during the defense of a number of worlds within the Taurus division. The Astartes under Vaughn's command were the only Imperial force close enough to respond to the Xenos threat, and they desperately held the Orcs at bay in order to allow the civilian population of these worlds a chance to evacuate to safety. Refusing to let his Gene Sons stand alone, Vulkan would lead a number of reinforcements that took the Orcs by surprise, prompting the Astartes under Vaughn's command to launch a savage counterattack against the Xenos. Unable to counter the sheer ferocity and renewed vigor of the Astartes, the Orcs would be swiftly defeated. Vulkan, now reunited with the bulk of his legion, would express how impressed he was by the bravery, tenacity, and skill of his Gene Sons. The Primarch would then rename the legion from the Dragon Warriors to the Salamanders, and would make a number of alterations to their command structure, modelling such changes after the great settlements of Nocturne. Now led by their Primarch, the Salamanders would go on to battle in a number of notable campaigns against Xenos and separatist human civilizations alike, both in isolation and in conjunction with other Space Marine legions. Following the onset of the Horus Heresy, the Salamanders Legion would remain loyal to the Emperor. When word of War Master Horus's rebellion reached Terra, Rogal Dorn, the Primarch of the Imperial Fists, who had been appointed the new Imperial War Master in all but name, dispatched a massive strike force to Istvan V to destroy Horus's forces before his rebellion could gain momentum. The Salamanders would be one of 7 legions that would take part in this assault, but it would be revealed that the Word-Bearers, Knights Lords, Alpha Legion, and Iron Warriors had aligned themselves with Horus, leading to the Salamanders, along with the Loyalist Raven Guard and Iron Hands legions, being utterly decimated in the ensuing massacre. Vulkan himself would be taken prisoner by Comrade Kurz, the Primarch of the Night Lords Legion, and subjected to prolonged sessions of torture. Despite the losses incurred by the Legion, a small number of surviving Salamanders, including a group led by Artilus Numion, would manage to escape the carnage and break out of the Istvan system. Despite the fact that warp travel was made incredibly difficult and tumultuous due to the creation of a warp storm called the Ruin Storm, many of these surviving Salamanders would risk the danger in order to escape the traitor's wrath. Many would eventually make their way to Macragge, the homeworld of the Loyalist Ultramarines Legion, thanks to a piece of alien technology within the Ultramar Empire known as the Pharos Beacon, which acted as a guiding light in the darkness. Vulkan would eventually escape from his incarceration upon Kurz's ship, and he too would arrive upon Macragge, though his capture and torture had rendered him insane. The Primarch, however, would be seemingly slain by a man called John Grammaticus, who was an agent of the Xenos organization known as the Cabal. Vulkan's body was placed within a stasis coffin dubbed the Unbound Flame, and those Salamanders under Numion's command would leave Macragge, risking the dangers of the Ruin Storm once more in order to bring their Primarch's body home. As the Salamanders returned to Nocturne, the world would be assaulted by forces from the Death Guard Traitor Legion, though they would be repulsed after a short but fierce battle. Vulkan would, through unknown means, be restored to life, and he would begin to make his journey to Terra via the subspace network known as the Webway. During the final stage of this journey, Vulkan would stand alone in the defense of the Golden Throne, battling against endless hordes of demonic entities. When the Horus Heresy finally came to its end, Vulkan would be one of the Primarchs that initially refused to accept Rabute Guilliman's Codex Astartes, possibly due to his concerns regarding how little of his legion remained following the events of the Drop Site Massacre. In response, Guilliman would declare that the Salamander's legion were exempt from being divided into smaller chapters. As a result, the Salamanders would be the sole legion to have sired no successor chapters during the course of the Second Founding. Despite this, a number of later chapters, while never confirmed, would be rumoured to be descendants of the 18th Legion. Sometime after this, Vulkan would abandon his legion for unknown reasons, seemingly vanishing without a trace, before reappearing once more to aid the Imperium during the War of the Beast in M32. The Primarch's last known appearance was during the Battle of Ulanor, where he and the Orc warlord known as the Beast were both seemingly vaporized by a massive explosion. Vulkan has not been seen since, and is presumed dead, though the chapter believe that gathering a collection of artifacts may one day lead to his return.
My sword is at the Emperor's command. I answer to no other living man, living or dead.
Over the next 10,000 years, the Salamanders would continue to serve the Imperium loyally, with their fury being unleashed countless times upon the enemies of man. However, the chapter would never forget nor merely cast aside the common citizenry of the Imperium during their operations, and instead would fight for the people as opposed to just the Emperor or the Imperium as a whole. This was most notably demonstrated during the course of the Second and Third Wars for Armageddon. During the Second Armageddon War, the Salamanders would successfully prevent the Orcs from destroying a water purification plant, which would have resulted in the citizens of Hive Tempestora dying of thirst. In addition, the chapter would take it upon themselves to not only defend supply convoys, but also refugee columns that were fleeing from the devastation wrought by the Orcs, tasks that would apparently be neglected by the other Space Marine chapters that fought during this war. The selflessness displayed by the Salamanders in the performance of such duties would further reinforce their standing as the protectors of humanity in the eyes of the common people. When the Third Armageddon War began, the Salamanders would send the warriors of the Sixth Company to reinforce the Black Templars chapter at Hive Hell's Reach, though they would be chastised by their allies for prioritizing the safety of civilians over killing an Orc war boss. The chapter would later launch a full-scale assault against a number of Orc rocks that had made planetfall and converted into vast fortresses along the banks of the Hemlock River, successfully destroying at least 9 of them. The Salamanders would also come to blows with the Marines' Malevolent chapter due to the actions of the latter. Captain Vinia of the Marines Malevolent would launch an artillery strike upon a refugee camp that was being assaulted by the Orcs, leaving the civilians to die, for in his own words, the captain simply had no time to defend them. This callous disregard of human life would enrage the Salamanders, resulting in Chapter Master Szhang striking Captain Vinia in his anger, laying him out with a single blow. Following the creation of the colossal warp rift known as the Cicatrix Maledictum, certain regions upon Armageddon would begin transforming into a demonic hellscape. The Salamanders would continue to fight valiantly, however, and would even help to prevent the forces of chaos from completing a ritual that would have summoned the demon Primarch Angron into the material realm. Many of the chapter's warriors continue to battle valiantly in the defense of Armageddon, even to this day.
Every man is a spark in the darkness. By the time he is noticed, he is gone forever.
While the Salamanders adhere broadly to the tenets of the Codex Astartes, the chapter does diverge from its teachings in a number of areas. For example, the chapter itself only has 7 companies in total, as opposed to the traditional 10, and the position of chapter master is always held by the first captain, who effectively acts as the regent of the chapter in their Primarch's absence. They also adhere to their own set of doctrines and philosophies, known more commonly as the Promethean cult, which teaches the chapter's warriors the values of loyalty, self-sacrifice, and self-reliance. Imagery of fire and hammers is also seen by the chapter as symbolic to the teachings of the cult, as each battle brother is also trained to be a master of the forge from a young age. Because of their education in the art of smithing, each salamander is capable of maintaining and repairing their weaponry and armor to a degree beyond that of many other chapters, leading to the salamanders boasting a higher than average number of mastercrafted weapons and artificer armor. The symbolism of the forge has in turn influenced the chapter's battle doctrine, leading to the salamanders favoring heat-based weaponry such as flamers or melters, and specializing in short-range firefights, though they are by no means limited to just this specific battlefield tactic. Thanks to the high gravity of their homeworld, the salamanders are noted to have slower reflexes than a typical Astartes, though they are still far superior to that of a baseline human. The high gravity of Nocturne also makes it incredibly difficult for the salamanders to train their warriors in the use of land speeders and jump packs, and thus the chapter makes less use of such war gear when compared to other chapters. The stability of the chapter's gene seed has been a matter for debate. While some sources have made the claim that the gene seed of the salamanders is, in itself, relatively pure, others have stated that the chapter's genetic stock has a 90% chance to manifest signs of genetic deviation and mutation. The most obvious flaw that affects the members of the chapter is the development of blood-red eyes and onyx-colored skin. It has been speculated that the reason for this is due to their gene seed being affected by the unique radiation of Nocturne, although others maintain that these flaws are merely a sign of greater genetic degradation. And that concludes this episode of 40k Lore for Newcomers. If you liked this video, consider supporting us on Patreon for more content. To those who are new to 40k, we hope you learned something. So leave a comment below, and thanks for watching.